All right, we're back. I'm actually going to go live on Instagram for a bit. I haven't done that for a while. I don't have access to the Instagram special live stream, but we're going to go live, see what happens. And while we're doing that, we're going to see if we can get Blender back up and running. We're downloading a ton of data from Google Cloud Service right now. Okay, so Instagram, as people come into Instagram, I'm going to talk over here to Instagram, and then I'll talk up here to Twitch and to Kick and to YouTube and to X, I guess. I got to figure out how to get two things. I got to figure out how to get the live streams going on Instagram, because I wish I could just pipe in what I'm doing right now with my screen. But I also need to get vertical streaming going on Twitter. So, hey Jerome, how you doing, Jerome, on Instagram? Yeah, so it's like 10:30 at night here, Pacific time. I'm in the middle of a 30-day art project. We streamed for a couple hours just before this for 30 minutes, or about 30 minutes or so ago. So a lot of this will be repeating, but right now I'm kind of stuck because if I open up Blender, I'm downloading a bunch of data, and I don't have, usually there's a little console in Blender, and I don't know where it went, but I can't click anything or touch anything right now, so I can't actually see, the progress. But we still may be able to do some things. Let me go check something right now. I should send it here. I'm just going to put a comment on Instagram. How I can get, what would it be? Anyway, so if you guys join on YouTube, I'm just working tonight. Been working every night on this art project. You won't be able to see what I'm working on the screen, unfortunately. But if you want to actually see what I'm working on, kind of follow along, see the chat, I'm live on YouTube. I just put my YouTube URL in there. And yeah, I'm just hanging out. I'm just working away live on YouTube and Twitch, and I'll answer any questions people have or just hang out and chat. If I don't see something on Instagram, it's because I don't get notifications or I don't see it on Instagram. It's not on my screen, so just say hi, drop a note, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, so I'm just grabbing some data here. Sound, terrain. Okay. Try something. So for those that don't know, I'm in the middle of a 30-day art project. I'm trying to make a new piece every single day for 30 days. I come from kind of a background in photography and video, and made a transition over to 3D about 2.5 years ago, and maybe less than that. And part of that process is I'm really focused, or I guess I specialize in using real-world data in my projects. So usually that means like terrain data, but sometimes it's LiDAR scanning or photogrammetry or just something to bring a real world object or terrain or anything into a 3D art project. So that's kind of my specialty. So when I'm live streaming, I'm working on usually something to do with that. And of course, if you just pop in on Instagram, you're just going to see me working away. It's going to seem odd, but hopefully you can still hear me. And yeah, just come say hi on YouTube. Okay, let's go to source and let's see what we did. So the question is, what is an HGT file? Interesting. So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get, so I get terrain data and satellite data from a bunch of different sources, but currently when I work in Blender, there's a tool called Blender OSM which brings in data from different sources, and it does a really good job of kind of keeping it organized in the sense that you can overlay a terrain and then a satellite image and then a map and then buildings, and it all kind of stays in the right geographic location. That's a common thing in GIS stuff, but when you're working in Blender, 3D tools, it's not super common or super easy to deal with. It's not common, and it makes it super easy to deal with the data, if that makes sense. So I use other 3D tools like Gaia, which is a procedural terrain tool to kind of add detail and textures and stuff to the terrain. If you're watching on anywhere but Instagram, until Instagram or Meta gives me access to actually live stream on Instagram, this is it, but you can see what I'm working on here. So this is my kind of streaming setup. Monitor over here with OBS, main monitor here with right now running Blender, and you can see this is a really bad view of the situation because you can see he's kind of detailed. But if I had, this is frozen because it's downloading data, but you can kind of get the idea. Like there's terrain data I've already imported in here, but it's very low quality. You can even see it, especially over here. You can see how low quality it is. So one of the ways that you can, one of the ways that you can handle that or deal with that is you can use procedural tools that basically run like geological simulations on the terrain. So think, what happens when it rains over 1,000 years? What happens if this glacier moves through here? What happens if the rock is this level of hardness or softness? How would it be affected by rain and by weathering? And anyway, this software can essentially add details to a terrain, especially if you have the basic layout, the heights already. It can do a pretty good job of simulating what it might look like or what it should look like. The problem is you want this all to kind of connect and be very lined up and together in Blender. So if I go into Gaia and I go get different data from different source, it's kind of hard to line it all up. So what I've been trying to do is figure out if I can somehow get the exact location that I'm using in Blender and bring it into Gaia so that it's all kind of the same data. So what I'm just doing right now, which you can't see if you're on Instagram, but if you're on YouTube or Twitch or Kick, it's super exciting. I'm basically just going and importing this data into QGIS to see if I can actually open it up. I found the file that gets downloaded, and it's a HGT. I used to get made fun of for saying the letter H. Anyway, it's basically, I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up. It's the data format. What is an HGT file? It's the data format for the old SRTM mission, the Space Shuttle Topography mission, which is where they went up with the Space Shuttle and they actually orbited Earth and took radar scans of the terrain, and is very low resolution, overall when you're working with it, but it's pretty incredible. It's a global height map of every elevation across Earth at I think it was 90 meter originally, 90 meter, which means like every pixel on a photo that you would look at would be 90 meters on Earth. It's kind of a hard analogy to explain, but like if you imagine, you're looking at your driveway or your house and you're looking at a photo of it from space, from satellite. If one pixel was 1 meter, that would represent, half of your car, maybe half of your car. So your actual detail of like a car, let's say, in your driveway would be pretty low, even at 1 meter. You get into like sub 1 meters where you get like really, really good quality. But, when you look at like something, even though it's radar, like 30 meters, 90 meters, it just means like one pixel is like your entire neighborhood, your general area. So you don't get a lot of detail with the terrain, but it's really cool to use it when you're just hit wave. It's all I can do on Instagram is hit wave. If you guys look in the chat on Instagram, I'm live streaming on Twitch and Kick and YouTube. If you click on those links, you can come see actually what I'm working on. But otherwise, I'm just sitting here hanging out, talking. Okay, so I was still waiting for Blender, and I don't know if that's going to come back or not. Okay, so opening HGT data in GTS. I might be able to just thinking. So much stuff in here. Just trying something out. It's like I see names from Instagram and I don't know if I'm trying to, I can't click and see. Wired Charles. Is that Charles from Communitech and Hyperdrive? Or is that someone else? And then Just Being Farley, my favorite dog account. How's Canmore? You guys out? Freezing cold out there right now? Okay, Blender OSM. Overlay. It's gonna work. This is so great. Well, Instagram can't see this, but this is sick. It kind of nailed the location. So you can't really see, unfortunately, what I got going on here, but I kind of imagined this spot. So it's going on the way I got here is basically the Bacanor Cosmodrome is where they launched what's the name of the rocket? I always forget it. Here, you know what? I have a chat GPT with all this stuff in it. Vostok 1, I think, was the rocket. Yes, this Vostok 1 that launched the first human to space. It's in Kazakhstan. It's a Russian facility, but it's in such a boring place. It's just a flat terrain. And for this piece, I really wanted to imagine this launch facility in a cold Russian winter landscape. And I went on a hunt for a location. So the first place I looked was what's the highest peak in Kazakhstan, and I got to the Khan Tengri, which I'm learning about. And right away it was oh yeah, this is the spot. Just very iconic looking mountain, very not common, very what's the word? It's easy to recognize. It's iconic, I guess. This is a picture of it up here on my screen. So I was looking at it, and it turns out it's on the border of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan and China, which is very interesting. So I started looking around, and I was okay, if I was gonna create a launch facility, where would I put it for a space, a secret space rocket launch facility? Where would I go? And there's this very, very cool kind of, there's a bunch of glaciers in this area. It's kind of a really crazy place to put a rocket facility, but it's still super fun to think about. And this mountain range is basically right on the border of Kyrgyzstan and China. Literally there's the border runs right through the middle of it. And there's glaciers around it. And then sort of across a valley is the Khan Tengri. So again, if you're on Instagram, you won't be able to see this, but this is, I guess I can just pick up my phone, right? This won't get any work done, that's all. So this is it here. So this is the Khan Tengri, and it's obviously a pretty prestigious peak, or pretty prominent peak is the word I'm looking for. So anyway, looking around, here's the spot, right? So Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, China, and then Kyrgyzstan, China border. And if you look at this and you kind of move down a bit, you see this spot here, and it's too good. There's kind of two, there's this up here, and then there's this down here. And if you think about this is such a wicked spot, because it's it's glacier and all that stuff, but it's just, I think it was this one. Yeah, this is the one. So if you kind of imagine this secret Russian launch facility for a future space launch, it's just kind of fun to imagine this thing in this particular crazy mountain range. So what I've been doing is downloading terrain data, satellite data, building up a landscape in Blender, and sort of imagining what this rocket facility might be like if it was based in this mountain range. So what's really cool is I was just in ChatGPT, and I was giving it a ton of information. So I kind of gave it the full detail of where we were going to make the mountain, where we're going to make the rocket facility, the actual GPS lat long. I asked for a fact sheet in the area, got all this information. And then I started imagining why would this be here? And we were kind of going through the process of thinking about it Russia and China just signed an agreement to collaborate on space related launches for I think the next 7 or 8 years. Obviously politically there's connections between Russia and China, they share a border. It just, you could just imagine a world in 30 years where Russia and China are, got a secret launch facility, and where would they put it? So, this location would be strategically in the middle of nowhere, but it'd just be kind of a fun imagine. It's where you'd put a secret launch facility if you want to keep it away from anyone. So anyway, I put it as getting scripts and stuff for some cinematic sequences for later in the project. But then right at the end, I said generate me an image of what this might look like. And this is wild, because I think when you see my render, when Blender comes back, this is like one of the views that I was picturing, but then the other ones are more up. And actually, this location is pretty much exactly where I put the camera. Just this sort of really cool valley. And it's interesting because, like, I was just talking about this on the stream earlier, is that, like, I focus so much on photorealism. And when I look at this style, which is AI, obviously, right? It's not intimidating for me, because the idea here is, the reason I make these in 3D myself is not because, like, hey, I think that I couldn't, you know, that I can do it better or make it look better than AI, because honestly, some of this stuff is like, this is incredible. If I just made this myself, I'd be pretty pumped about this result. But I want to be able to, like, go into these locations and actually move camera around, and actually, like, there's some ideas I have. And I'm sure we're not that far away from, you know, putting a prompt in and, okay, this is going to turn this into a 3D environment and texture it. But that's a pretty challenging thing for AI to overcome. It's easy to get things to look good from one perspective because it's just a bunch of pixels. But when you're talking about, like, actual 3D environments and texturing, it gets, you know, exponentially more difficult. But what I'm looking at this and going, the detail is really good, but the complexity is small, like on the terrain. There's really just like a bit of a gradient of color here, and just like very sharp details in the rock. You know, some detail here with the snow and like the snow flow, which is really good. The way the trees, you know, go from kind of that grassy area to tree area, which is obviously very common. Anywhere alpine, you get that kind of tree line. And usually it's not like this extreme, but you kind of get the idea. The moon behind it, it's all just like exactly, well, it's very similar to what I was imagining. I'm really curious, and maybe this is the project, and maybe I'll use this as a reference. I would love to texture something in this way, where it is detailed, but like very simple. I mean, there's just tree textures, grass textures, rock, snow. It's just the detail looks so good. And then when you get down in the building, this is pretty damn good. I think I would probably try to replicate this as close as I could. Not the rocket though, not the spaceship, but it's definitely interesting. It's very, you know, this is some of the other AI images I imagine. I'm just going to organize these together. This is all AI stuff up here. These up here. This was all kind of schematic stuff. This is the actual facility. Maps. Shout out Sean Costello. I think he gave most of these. Some of these I've downloaded. This is the actual rocket. Well, that's the actual space. Okay, so let's go here. Here. This could be separate. Wish that there was like a quite as good when I optimize it like this versus just manually. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so again, we look at the references up here. This nails it. I mean, this one was also very close, inspiration-wise. Surprisingly, this is Dolly and this is Midjourney. That's probably one of the best Dolly images I think I've seen. If you're on Instagram, I can't stream properly to Instagram with my screen yet. I don't have access to it, so if you want to see what I'm actually working on, just jump over to YouTube or Twitch. And my data is done. Okay, so check this out. So, a couple things are interesting here. So, first of all, the placement was not right. That's okay. So let's see if we can line this up. So what did we get? We got, this is the tile. We just didn't get any of this over here. It's what we actually want as well. And then the shadowing, unfortunately, is different. It's probably not the best shadowing for composition that we're doing, but it's all good. Okay, so we're just going to line this up. I don't know if we should line up. Looks good. There we go. Now I can show a little bit of the composition. Okay, so if we close this terrain, we should see our Google. Yeah, so, okay, we have to fix the material for lighting, first of all. What's going on here? Okay, so we have to fix the terrain for lighting. Oh, this doesn't work. Because right now it's just sort of doing its own lighting thing, so I can fix that. It's interesting. I don't think there's going to be much detail here. If I bring the camera back to my original spot, this is probably where we're going to shoot it. You know, I don't know if there's going to be better detail, but let's get rid of the texture, because that's always a big thing, and then we'll decide whether we're going to use this or not. So what I'm going to do is, this is kind of an interesting thing. I didn't know how to do this before. I just figured this out the other day. It's super interesting. So if you go into Google's like tiles in Blender, and you basically kill this node, or replace it with a principal BSDF. They do this because they want the terrain to look good right away, like in any situation. So it has a mission. So it doesn't really matter whether the scene's lit. But if you basically do this, and then usually if you bring in a normal map, and you bring in a color ramp, and I don't remember whether we have to invert. So basically if we bring in this color to here, and we flip these, and we drop this into the roughness, and if we do, I think it's, I don't know on this one, I'm just going to try it. 0.5. And then we do, I think we just, I don't even think we select them all, I just think we keep this, and now I think we just replace all the materials with 5264. 264. And what's cool is it'll just run a script that's going to go in and like replace the current old setup with this base color, with basically this principal BSDF node in the middle. It'll replace it for all like 500 materials. There's a lot in here, and I think it's already, you can see it's already working. I think it's done. And these 3D tiles are very, very heavy. Like they're very, if it's done yet. At the the end of the day, I don't think I'm going to use these, but we'll see. I did download a lot of data, so it can take a while here. Yeah, so I think this is kind of our target. I think this is a really... I think if I could get this style down, and like the things I'm noticing about it is a lot more flow. So like, you know, real mountains don't have this type of flow. This is like, you can see all these. I wish you could hear my dog right now. Alpine does not drink water all day, and then she picks usually 1 to 2 times a day to drink like a liter and a half of water. She's a very, very weird dog. And that was one of those times. All right. Let's see, where are we at? Yeah, so like normal ground doesn't have these kind of flows, but you can see the rock flows is really, I mean, it's very, very appealing, especially in this scene, because it's all these lines are kind of leading you down this valley. And then like the straight textures for the trees is really interesting to me. And I'm thinking about an idea, because if you were to place in Blender a ton of trees like this, what you end up with is really bad performance and not particularly interesting to look at. Versus this is like really a texture. But the trick with these textures, it's really, really tough to figure out, is that if you kind of look at it, this whole like, okay, basically these are trees, right? So even though there's really no detail here, it's the same color. You can't see like the actual, you know, tree trunks or whatever, but it's like the texture stretches north to south. So you get kind of a little stretching at the bottom, and then it just goes into the normal texture. And it's like, I think you could simulate that with a node, with a shader node in Blender. And then you just simply displace the terrain at some increment where this actual trees are located. So you end up with like trees around trees, no trees. There's only 2 textures here. And the difference is the displacement, the texture stretch, and the displacement, the texture stretch, and yeah, that's it. It's just a different texture. I mean, it's almost the same texture, just scaled up a bit. So I don't know. It's interesting. This style could be done, and there's only 3-4 textures, and then the roads. So I'm gonna aim for this style. For this piece. It might be a big challenge, but we'll see. Okay, so let's flip over to Blender and see if it's done. No, it's still going. Oh, or I broke it. Let's see. I was running into this issue before. Blender's performance is like good. I'm gonna save this. Okay. So, performance is fine now. See what happens with Google 3D Tiles. Okay, so you can see I probably messed up the roughness. Maybe not. No, I did. I think it's okay. So you can now see like it, it brings in a bit of satellite data, but it's really not good. Now, I brought this in a pretty low resolution. It's a big area, so it doesn't work very good. I think we're going to have to try to do this with satellite data potentially and terrain. So this is my original landscape, which is this one and this one. So this is like no texturing. This is just standard, terrain, but this is sort of the composition that we have. We had a couple options, one down here, up here, a little bit over here. And this one is, I think, the same as this one. That's a little closer. This is the current winner. But we'll see, because, man, this wide view is kind of cool, too. So actually, let me just see what that looks like. T20 by 1080. So I'm just kind of taking a peek at what the view would look like. We want to be authentic, like something like that. But let's go back here. Let's go to 1080. I think 250 for now. So I'm back here. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is grab satellite data for this. So I'm going to go to image overlay. We're going to go to Mapbox, and we got to make sure we get this terrain right. So this is O2. So I'm just organizing the terrain now into folders, and just so I can keep myself from losing my mind later when I can't find something. So I just move this in. So if I go to this terrain now and I say from active, and I pick Contangri background, hopefully this is it. And then I pick satellite and I import. It's going to go out, and it'll take 2 or 3 minutes, and it's going to go out and get satellite data for this location. So what I'd like to do is just take, simple is take this terrain, overlay with a satellite, bring it into Gaia, add a bunch of like really cool weather effects, hydrology, weathering, etc. And then take that and generate the color maps, the mask for the terrain, bring that back into Blender, and then combine the two. That's kind of like what I want to do, but we'll see. I'm probably going to go here not for too much longer, and then I'll just sort of leave this in a good place, and I'll pick this up tomorrow. So if you're watching on Instagram, just a reminder that this is... I can't actually live stream my screen. So just check out YouTube or Twitch. That's where I've got the full stream going. And if you're on YouTube and Twitch, you can chat. It'll show up on the screen. Just let me know what you're working on or any questions you have about what I'm doing. Okay, so it's done. So you can see it. It's probably going to be useless now that I look at it. Unless, oh, I might have, maybe I changed the location. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. Why does it look so weird? What am I missing here? Why here does it look? This thing looks like we're covered in snow. I'm super confused. What's going on for Instagram? Just know you won't be able to see my screen, so if you want to see what I'm working on, best thing to do is just check out YouTube or Twitch, where I've got the full screen up. I messed that up. So what I did was, I think somehow it projected. It's very, very odd. Somehow the satellite image got projected onto this. Must be like it must project. I don't know, it's very weird. It's weird that it won't change. Let's see what the mystery. We can solve that after. Yeah, so anyway, we got the satellite imagery, but it's not great. I don't think that it adds anything, you know. There's really no detail. So I think we'll probably end up taking that off. So it's just back to the regular one. I think I'm going to have to get this into Gaia. So I wonder if I can actually undo my way out of that. Edit, undo. I feel like this is going to crash. I don't know why I do this to myself every time. I try crazy undos. Every time it crashes Blender, and then I'm like, oops, and that's it. I'll have to watch Gaia anyway. Those that don't know what I'm doing on Instagram, I just like keep saying it because people join the stream and like I'm just sitting here doing nothing. I'm not that crazy. It's just I am live streaming on YouTube and Twitch and stuff. 30-day art project. I can't actually push the screen to Instagram, so you can't see what I'm working on. But I just kind of fire this up every once in a while to tell people if they're interested, they can check it out on YouTube or Twitch. Super weird. Okay. Huh. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I've got to try to get the terrain data, and then I can start in Gaia tomorrow. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably end the stream here pretty soon. If you're watching on Instagram, come over to YouTube or Twitch. You can kind of check out what I'm doing. I've been live streaming every day, so I'm hoping, to keep this up at least in the month of November. But I think I'm going to just try to see if I can get the terrain thing solved, which is not super interesting to watch. And then I'll kick this off tomorrow with a proper stream as we sort of sculpt out the terrain and texture and layer the rest of the scene. So thank you for joining on Twitch and YouTube and people on Instagram. I appreciate it. And I'll be back at it tomorrow. Peace.